Now it's time to get story-oriented. My next guest is a former kindergarten teacher turned social entrepreneur. He's a comedian and creator of Barbershop Books. He calls himself the Chief Reading Inspirer due to his efforts to get kids, particularly African-American boys, interested in reading. I spoke with him via satellite from New York. Here's my interview with Alvin Irby. Why did you found this innovation? And the idea is you put a book stand up in barbershops. Why? Where did the idea come from?
So I was teaching first grade in the Bronx at a public school. And one day after school, I was getting a haircut at the barbershop across the street from my school. And one of my first graders walked into the shop. He plopped down on the couch, and he just kind of stared out the window with this bored look on his face for like 15 or 20 minutes. And of course, he's getting antsy, and his mom is like, sit down, and all of this. And the whole time I'm looking at him, all I keep thinking is, he should really be practicing his reading right now, right? He was my student. I knew his reading level. And so it was really that moment that really inspired me to come up with the idea for Barbershop Books. You know, the idea that while kids are waiting in the barbershop, they should have, fun books to read.
Tell me the importance of having this really literary resource in the middle of a place mostly populated by men.
So that's definitely an important part of the mission, which is to really help young black boys and other boys of color to identify as readers. And the way that we're doing that is by connecting reading to a male-centered space and by involving men in boys' early reading experience. And when you look at the data, right, today a majority of black boys, unfortunately, are being raised by single mothers. And less than 2% of teachers in the United States, K through 12, are African-American men. So we have a situation where a lot of young black boys really don't have relevant male reading models at school or at home, but a lot of those same boys are going to the barbershop once or twice a month.
And who chooses the books that you fill the barbershop book shelves with?
The book recommendations come directly from young boys of color. I mean, people ask us all the time, how did you come up with your list? I mean, how did you choose the books? And I tell people, I went into black barbershops in Harlem and I asked boys what they like to read, and then we bought the books. I mean, it really, it isn't rocket science. We really asked them what they like to read, and we bought those books. And those are the books that we've put in barbershops around the country.
Now, in the 10th grade, Alvin, you made a difficult decision to switch to a more complicated English class than the one you were in. And you discovered that the higher level was filled with predominantly white students. What did you think at that moment, and how did it change the way you thought about education and reading? Is that a part of what informed this innovative approach to literacy?
Yeah, so when I was teaching, when I was in high school in 10th grade, I was in a regular English class, and I was just bored out of my mind is what was going on. And when I switched into this advanced placement class, I noticed that there was this huge disparity in terms of the demographics of the class. And what that did for me is really, along with the difference in kind of rigor, between the two classes, it really began to kind of help me understand the kind of political implications of kind of what I didn't know at the time, but was institutionalized kind of racism or institutionalized discrimination. And I definitely think that informs a lot of my work and the path that I've taken, in terms of kind of educational justice, right?
Look, I spend a lot of time in predominantly African-American schools in the inner city and urban centers as an author. And first of all, these kids rarely get an author coming to visit them, which is a crime itself. And secondly, they're often written off. One of the principals recently told me, people told me when I took this job, well, these kids, they don't want to read and they never will. Well, you bring an author in, you get them excited about a story, those kids will read it from sunup to sundown.
They probably don't want to read those whack books about slavery, civil rights, and old dead black people that get shoved down their throats at a lot of schools. And, unfortunately, that is what I've found. A lot of people, when they, want to recommend diverse titles, too often they're about, serious topics. And what a lot of the research is showing is that what a lot of young children, especially boys, love to read most are books that make them laugh, books that
Right.
are funny. But when it comes to boys of color, and especially black boys, often the books that get recommended to them are often very serious titles.
Yep.
And so I think there's a disparity in terms of what some children actually want to read in the books that they have access to.
I agree with you. No, they want to have a good time. They want to go on an adventure because boys are adventure. They want to
have fun.
They want to have fun, and they want to, slay the monsters and be the hero of their own story. According to the Department of Education, the percentage of black males 4 to 8 who are not proficient in reading is 85%. Why do you think that percentage is so high, and what are the schools getting wrong?
Well, one thing I would say is that, kids do have bad test days, right? So that is definitely the statistic. But, I don't know that, it reflects, to a T exactly what the rates are. But even if it was 10% lower, that's still a way too high number. And so, what I think is really contributing to some of this is the fact that so much of many children's early reading experiences in schools are exclusively skill-based. And what I mean is a child comes into school, they're excited about reading, they're excited about books, and the first thing that happens for many children is that they're assessed and they're given a list of all the words they don't know, all the letter sounds they don't know, all the letters they don't know, and a lot of the kids' excitement turns into horror as they're convinced that they're actually not a reader. And so what Barbershop Books, is really trying to suggest to education and to educators is that we should really focus a lot more time, energy, and resources on cultivating children's reading identities. And when I say reading identity, what I'm talking about is providing children with the type of reading experiences that will lead them to say 3 words. I'm a reader. If we can, convince children that they're readers, right, then what do readers do? They read for fun. Because honestly, if a child is only reading, right, when it's required and they're already behind, the chances of them reaching proficiency are low, and whatever progress they do make, it's going to be slow. And so, I'm not saying that we don't need skill-based interventions or skill-based instruction and support, but what I'm saying is that shouldn't be the only reading experiences that children are having.
Yeah, Greg, I love that you now have Barbershop Books in over 100 barbershops across 17 states. Tell us what it takes to set up a barbershop book. How much? What's the cost of this?
So it's really simple. It's really simple and inexpensive. So if someone says, you know what, there's a barbershop down the street that I think Barbershop Books should be in, the cost is just $475, and that includes a colorful, child-friendly bookshelf that's branded with the Barbershop Books name on it. It also includes a year's supply of books. So we actually ship 15 unique titles and 33 replacement books. So a total of 48 brand new, titles that are curated to the barbershop. And then we also include a window decal. And so that, a barber can put on the window or on the door to let, people know this is a barbershop that's supporting early childhood literacy.
Of course.
But that's for one barbershop. If, let's say, a school district or a city or a city council decides, you know what, this is a program that we want to bring to our city, well, the cost is only $12,000 for 10 barbershops. And in that case, we actually come to the area and provide an in-person early literacy workshop for the barbers where we actually train barbers how to support early literacy in their barbershops.
Amazing. Great work, Alvin. I thank you so much for all you're doing on behalf of literacy and in communities that I think are often overlooked. And you've found such an original place, the barbershop, where everybody comes together. I love communal, central locations, and you've tapped into a great one. Alvin Irby, Barbershop Books, thank you for being here. For more on Alvin and his work, you can go to barbershopbooks.org.